here in the state of Florida versus Garcia and McVanna will let the record reflect defendants present with their attorneys. Let me take up one issue. Mr. Sanguinetti asked a question at the end of the day about time for preparation for closing. I didn't give him much of an answer. Probably deserves a little better answer. There are still too many variables to know for sure, but it's unlikely that I'm going to stop the trial to provide recess time for closing preparation. So you probably need to do that on your own time. I will say we will have to have a charge conference, and it takes the court some time to prepare jury instructions. So the best I can suggest is a little division of labor among the attorneys. Both all parties have multiple attorneys, so a little division of labor might help on that. Any other issues we need to deal with before we move back into closing argument from the state?
No, sir.
Defense?
No, Your Honor. Good morning.
Good morning.
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
All right. Well, good. We'll start with the jury. 9 o'clock. All right?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Court is back in session.
So, jury.
All rise for the jury.
Everybody be seated, please. You may proceed, Mr. Costa.
Thank you. Agent Sanford, you're with the FBI, right?
Yes, sir.
You're a special agent.
Correct.
I just want to clarify for the jury, all agents are special agents, right?
With the FBI, correct.
You start as a special agent.
Correct.
Just to clarify that there's not something special about you as an agent. You're all special.
That's correct.
You've been there 20 years, right?
That's correct.
And in those 20 years, you've worked on about a dozen homicide cases?
In my FBI career, correct.
Now, you've worked many more cases than those 12 or so homicide cases, right?
That's correct.
A vast majority of the cases that you've worked have been federal prosecutions.
Quite a few of them, yes.
You would agree with me that it's not standard, it does happen, but it's not standard that the Federal Bureau of Investigation comes in on a state-level prosecution.
It happens quite a bit.
It happens when help is needed outside of Leon County. That would be an example, right?
That's sometimes an example, yes.
And that was one of the reasons why you were brought into this case, because help was needed outside of Leon County, right?
At the beginning, yes.
What does FBI stand for?
Federal Bureau of Investigation.
You would agree with me that the purpose of the Federal Bureau of Investigation is to investigate, by its name, right?
That's one of our purposes.
Now, it's not just to investigate, and just talking about the investigation portion, not just to investigate, but to objectively investigate a case, right?
Sure, that's correct.
You shrugged a little bit there. Why?
Because we investigate a wide variety of things, and we need to cover those aspects.
We're just talking about when you're brought onto a case, state-level homicide prosecution, you're investigating it, that your job is to objectively investigate it versus subjectively investigate it.
Sure.
So you agree with me that your job is to objectively investigate a case?
That's one of our jobs, correct.
Whether it is state or federal.
Correct.
And once you've done your objective investigation, then present what you have to the prosecution. Right?
Yes, correct.
That would be your role in a case like this.
One of our roles, correct.
I want to talk to you about your theory of the case. Agent, you've seen that board before, right?
Just a few minutes ago.
You know who all those people are, right?
Yes, I do.
You have to the far right, you have Dan Markel.
Yes,
To his left, on the top, you have Wendy Adelson,
correct,
then Harvey Adelson,
correct.
Donna Adelson,
Yes,
Charles Adelson,
yes,
my client Katherine McVanois,
yes,
Sigfredo Garcia,
yes,
Luis Rivera.
correct.
And you believe that that is the group, more or less, that caused the death of Dan Markel.
Correct,
Adelson's wanted it to happen, right?
correct.
Rivera and Garcia did it,
Yes,
and the connection is through Katherine McVanois.
that's correct.
The four people on the top, the Adelsons. Let's start with Harvey Ellison. Has he ever been arrested on this case?
No,
Ever been charged?
no, he's not.
What about his wife Donna?
No, not yet.
Daughter Wendy?
No,
Well, let's go back to that. Not yet. You plan on arresting Donna Adelson?
Objection, relevance.
Sustained.
Wendy Adelson. Ever been arrested?
no,
Ever been charged?
no,
We're talking about this case, of course.
correct.
Charles Adelson. Has he ever been arrested in relation to the murder of Dan Markel?
No,
Ever been charged?
no,
Now, focusing on Katherine McVanois, the only witness who gives you any testimony about Katherine McVanois' involvement is Luis Rivera, right?
correct,
He's the only one.
correct.
He was originally looking at the death penalty, right?
I don't know what he was looking at. I don't charge him.
Well, you've worked murder cases before.
Correct.
It's not abnormal for you to work them. You know about them, right?
Yes, I do.
And in a case like this, with the facts that you have, that would lead to a charge of first-degree murder, right?
It's possible, not in every case.
You know in this case that Luis Rivera was charged with first-degree murder, right?
Correct,
And first-degree murder normally carries with it the death penalty,
correct.
or life.
Sure.
He cooperated, right?
Correct,
Became your witness, right?
correct.
In exchange for that needle coming out of his arm, right?
I don't know what he exchanged it for, but he did cooperate.
And it was his words, and only his words, that resulted in the arrest of Katherine McVanois.
That's incorrect.
Let's go through the chronology of dates. Luis Rivera talks to you. He gives his formal statement to you for the first time on September 30th, right?
Correct.
How many days later was Katherine McVanois arrested?
The next day.
How many hours?
I don't know the hours.
Less than 24, right?
Possibly.
I'm going to ask you a few questions about the Latin Kings, real quick. You have professional experience with them, right?
Correct.
They're a criminal organization,
Yes.
well organized.
Somewhat.
They make money through crime,
Correct.
including murder.
Yes.
It's a Latin-based gang.
Yes.
Miami has a large Latin population,
That's correct.
meaning they have a strong presence in South Florida.
Yes.
Luis Rivera is not just a member, right?
Right.
He's what's called the head crown.
He's one of the leaders of the North Tribe, my understanding.
He's the boss.
Correct.
He's the godfather.
Of the North Tribe, yes.
Luis Rivera has a family with Jessica Rodriguez, right?
Yes.
Whether it's his wife or his girlfriend, they're very close, right?
As far as I can tell, yes.
Part of your involvement coming onto the case being the tentacles down in other areas, you went down to South Florida, and on 2 separate occasions you met with Jessica Rodriguez, right?
Correct.
Both of those conversations were recorded, right?
That's correct.
Now there was a third one, a third phone call with Sherry Bennett. You know about that, right?
I was told about it. I was not present for it.
And that's a recorded phone call.
I don't know.
Now, let's put Luis Rivera aside for a second. Talk about the other evidence that you believe that you have against Katherine McBanois. Let me know if I'm leaving anything out. Bank deposits, right?
Yes.
Breast surgery,
Yes.
the car,
Yes.
the patterns of phone calls,
Yes.
paychecks,
Yes.
and then post-bump, more patterns of phone calls,
Correct.
what we've referred to as dolce vita,
Correct.
in that she didn't contact the police.
That's correct.
That sums it all up, right?
No, not necessarily.
Let's go through each one, and you can let us know what we're leaving out. Before we get into the specifics of it, let's talk about how you approached the investigation of Katherine McBanois. You're investigating this case. You come onto the case in 2014, right?
That's correct.
Days after, you're brought in, you're the lead agent involved in it.
Correct.
Now, you guys investigate Priuses all over the state, all over the Southeast.
Correct.
You investigate any and all leads that you can,
That's correct.
but it comes up with nothing.
Correct.
Nobody else was arrested in relation to this, right?
That's correct.
You eventually come back to this theory that the Adelsons were behind it, right?
Correct.
And then more evidence develops, and then you learn of Katherine McBanois.
That's correct.
You want her to cooperate, right?
Correct.
To give you the people that you think caused this to happen.
To tell the truth.
My question to you is to give you the people that caused this to happen.
My answer is for her to tell the truth.
You want her to cooperate. That's what you'd like to see happen personally.
Objection, ask and answer.
Sustained.
That's personally what you...
Sustained.
Your Honor, if I may impeach?
No, you can move on.
Going to the next topic. To get her to cooperate, you needed to build a case, right?
Can you repeat that question?
To get her to cooperate, you needed to investigate and get evidence against her, right?
People cooperate without evidence. People just come forward and cooperate with us and tell us the truth sometimes without evidence against them.
Well, that's not what you did here. What you did is you started to investigate. You started to look into the bank deposits, the breast surgery, the car, the call activity, right?
Correct.
To tighten the screws.
No, to find out the truth.
Now, you found facts. You found the facts that we just talked about, the other non-Rivera stuff. You found that, right?
Correct.
On its face, a woman driving around, the Adelson's Lexus. She has children with Garcia, who knows Rivera. She dated Adelson. On its face, looks incriminating, right?
That's not what led us to her.
My question, though, is it looks incriminating. You can agree with me.
Sure.
It's okay.
Sure.
All right. And that's how it was presented here. Katherine is, Miss McBanois was driving around in the Adelson's black Lexus. That's your words, driving around. Right?
I said I saw her in the Lexus, yes.
And that's, again, good evidence for your theory up here.
It's a piece of the evidence, yes.
Unless, and we're just talking about this piece right now, unless it was a legitimate purchase. Right?
Not necessarily.
Let's talk about the condition of the car. What year?
I think it was a 2001.
So it will be 13 years old, give or take, in 2014?
Correct.
The mileage. Do you know what it is?
No.
If I were to say 160,000 miles, would that seem correct?
I have no idea.
Do you know if the car was involved in any accidents?
I'm not sure.
Would you agree with me? Well, actually, let me show you McBanois 1. You've seen this before, right?
Correct.
It's a car titled the Lexus.
Yes.
Now, you could for the jury. Can you see on here the mileage of the car? Pretty around is that?
Yeah, I'm looking up. That's the written mileage, yeah, 160,000 miles exactly.
You agreed, you looked at this objectively, right?
Yes.
You just said it there, you go, that's the written mileage.
Correct.
Insinuating that somehow it was written there falsely.
Because I have to take that with a grain of salt. It was handwritten on there, not verified by anybody.
Do you know the difference of looking at the world through clean windows versus dirty windows?
Absolutely, and that's how I looked at it.
Okay, so looking at it through clean windows, there's a title for a vehicle, selling price $1,700, 160,000 miles, right?
Correct.
Now, you would agree with me that this was not exactly a new car,
That's correct.
not a fancy car.
No.
You have evidence that it was a legitimate purchase.
I had evidence of a title. I had no other evidence to show that it was paid for legitimately.
So, again, looking at it objectively, no evidence that she didn't pay for it.
There was no evidence that she did pay for it, and I'll look for that.
Okay. Let's talk about how you investigated it. Or better yet, how you didn't investigate it. You didn't deem it relevant to investigate any further, right?
You object to the argument of,
Sustained.
Did you deem it relevant to investigate it?
Yes, to a certain extent.
And what extent is that?
Trying to find if a purchase was made with through checks, through cash withdrawals, through a loan, through her finances.
Do you remember what you said in deposition?
No, not off the top of my head.
Would it help you to take a look at it?
Sure.
All right. Pages 73, 74, starting on line 16. You can take a look.
Which line?
Deposition. Yeah. You're going to start on line 16. Just read down. Let me know if that helps you. If it was on the next page.
Yes, I recall that.
You didn't deem it relevant, did you?
I did not find the blue book value to be relevant, which is what you were asking me in my deposition.
So the Lexus itself is relevant against her here in trial, but it's not. Hold that question. The idea of the Lexus is relevant here in trial, but to investigate it, it's not.
No.
objection argumentative.
Sustained.
Doesn't fit your theory if Katherine McBanwa purchased an old beat-up Lexus from the guy she was working with, the guy she used to date. Right?
Objection argumentative.
Sustained.
Let's go to the wiretaps. Government's 138. You remember yesterday how there was call RR played, and I won't replay all these. But how it was played yesterday, and there was a phone call from May 13th, how Charles helped her pay for tires for the Lexus.
Correct.
Good for the theory, right? He's buying her things.
Correct.
Now, yesterday I asked you to review some CDs of other phone calls,
Yes.
and you did that, right?
Reviewed some of them. Other ones I had to just look at the summary because I didn't have time to review them all.
Now, there's one CD labeled 1672-934, and that's from April 22nd of 2016. You reviewed that CD, right?
Which CD was it? 1672?
Correct.
That was the call numbers? 1672? That is not here.
We'll come back to that. You have all them up there, right?
All the CDs, I believe so. The ones you left up here.
We'll circle back around. You've listened to all the phone calls, though, right?
Every phone call on the wire? No.
All right. So you may or may not have listened now to call 1672.
I'm not positive which one that is. I was in Miami for a lot of the wire.
All right. Well, we take a brief break. We'll grab it. We'll bring it up, and we'll come back to that.
Okay.
In the review of the calls that you did review, you remember hearing conversations about how Katherine purchased the vehicle from Charles Adelson for $2,500, right?
No, not in a conversation. I remember conversations where he's telling her to get it titled, that she had the vehicle.
Again, we'll come back to call 1672.
Okay.
Let's go over to the paychecks now. Your theory that she's getting paychecks from a place that she's not working, right? That's your theory.
That's what the evidence shows.
Now, the evidence you say, you're talking about the poll camera, the 8 months worth of video that you took out in front of Katherine McBano's house, right?
That's some of the evidence, correct.
That's the evidence that you have that you believe that she wasn't working there because she wasn't physically going to the Adelson Institute, right?
Along with her cell phone that showed she wasn't going, yes.
Now, we'll get into that. Charles Adelson, a traveling periodontist, right?
Correct.
Never at one location really for that long. He's traveling around to different dental offices. He's all over the place, right?
Sometimes, yes.
Now, you learned that Katherine McBano's job for the Adelson Institute is to contact patients, right?
No, I did not learn that.
Yesterday, when we played Call E, you remember that, in Government's 138.
Okay.
You remember at the 10:31 mark where Charles says to Katherine, did you call those patients?
Okay.
Do you want to hear it again?
No, I believe you.
You agree with me that there's evidence in a phone call from your wiretaps where Charles is telling Katherine, call the patients.
I agree that Charles told her a lot of things like, thanks for cleaning up on the weekend too.
We're not talking about that right now. We're talking about the fact. Now, let's back up here. The bump happens on what date?
The bump is on the 19th of April, 16th.
Say that again now.
April 19th.
April 19th. And you would agree with me that there was no communication to these people that they were being monitored.
These people, which people?
The people that you had wiretapped, Katherine McBano and Charles Adelson.
That's correct.
You don't send them notification, hey, we're taking a wiretap on you, because you're trying to catch pure communications, right?
Not ahead of time, that's correct.
In front of you, you have a CD for 899-519/520.
Yes,
You listened to that last night, right?
correct.
Now that's a call from April 15, 2016,
That's correct.
days before the bump.
Correct.
Days before anybody would think, hey, we may be getting wiretapped.
Correct.
And on that call, Katherine says,
Objection, hearsay.
Overruled.
and on that
This is
call,
one of the ones in evidence, is it not?
it's not, Your Honor, I got a
I
pre-marked.
sustain the objection.
Defense moves in, what's pre-marked is defense 26.
Is there objection?
Hearsay.
Sustain.
Agent, in the phone calls that you reviewed that are pre-bump, there's no conversation, I don't work for you, right?
Objection, hearsay.
Sustain.
Let's go back to the investigation, what wasn't done. You learn that her job is contacting patients.
That's incorrect. I heard that on a call, but that's one of many conversations they had.
Okay.
I did not learn any other way that she was doing that.
You believe she doesn't work there because she's not going to a location, because her cell phone shows that, right?
And because we're listening to her phone and there's no calls being made to patients.
You don't know her job description, whether it requires her to go to the office, right?
No, we don't.
You don't know what software the Adelson Institute runs to allow people to work remotely, right?
No, we don't.
You don't know that they use Dentrix, where you can log in and you can view patient files, right?
No idea.
You don't know if she was supplied a work phone or as a home line to be communicating with those patients, right?
There was no evidence of that. She actually made comments about working on her cell phone.
There's no evidence because it wasn't investigated, right?
Objection, argumentative.
Is it your computer that's speaking? Whose
I think
computer?
so, I just unplugged it.
Okay.
Agent? Your Honor, I believe there's an objection for the government.
I'm sorry, the beep distracted me, I'm sorry. The objection is what?
Argumentative.
A sustain.
Agent, you're aware that people can make phone calls through internet devices as well too, right?
On a case-by-case basis, yes, it's possible.
So what you're saying is that you have evidence that she's using her phone for work, but at the same time saying that's evidence that she's not working there?
No, there was no evidence that she was using that phone for work. She stated she used that phone for work, and we had zero evidence of it because we were listening to all of her calls.
Now again, you objectively investigated all of this.
Correct.
At some point in time, you get Charles Adelson's iCloud messages, right?
Correct.
His Apple information.
Is Apple information correct?
You went through all of it, right?
I personally didn't go through all of it, no.
This may be where the problem is. Showing you
Objection, move to
Mr.
strike.
DeCoste, jury disregard counsel's comments.
Showing you what's been entered in as defense 15. Before I show you that though, when was it that Katherine McVanwa started receiving checks from the Adelson Institute? You remember?
I don't remember the exact date. I want to say it was around September of 14.
If I were to say that the first check in the memo line was September 15, 2014 through September 18, 2014,
That sounds
does
correct.
that seem about right?
Seems about right.
Showing you what's been entered in as 15. Ever seen that before?
No, I have not.
So this is a text message from Katherine McVanwa to Charles Adelson saying, I'll let you know on my availability so you can know more or less how many hours I can dedicate. Thank you again.
Okay.
And if you could take a look at the top of that where the timestamp is. What's the relation of the timestamp date?
9/14 of 14.
Correct me if I'm wrong, that's one day before the date of employment in the memo line.
Sure.
Let's go to the next topic. Breast surgery. At some point you get the records, her medical records from the breast surgery that she had, right?
Those are sent to TPD, not to me.
But you see it eventually, right?
I don't think I saw the records, no.
You know about it?
Yes.
I'm not going to ask you specifics on it, but you know about it.
Yes, correct.
The breast surgery was paid for partly in cash, mostly in cash, right?
Correct.
And you believe that that goes to your theory. That that was a gift from Charles Adelson for helping commit the murder of his brother-in-law, right?
Partially, yes.
You cannot say where that cash came from, can you?
No, we couldn't trace it back to anything, any legitimate purpose, legitimate source.
That goes right into our next topic, the cash, including the cash deposits. You can't say where any of the cash that was deposited into her account came from, right?
No, we cannot.
Let's talk about what investigation you did. You learn that Katherine was working at nightclubs, 2013, 2014, right?
Correct.
You had no doubt that she was working at nightclubs, your words.
Right.
And one, working VIP bottle service in a nightclub in Miami would make cash tips, right?
Correct.
In your investigation of Katherine McVanwa, of course you looked at her social media, right?
Some of it, yes.
You went through the photos, you in conjunction with the Tallahassee Police Department subpoenaed her Facebook records, right?
That's correct.
And on her Facebook account, there are photos, you looked at those, you looked at communications, anything you could find to help build your case.
Correct.
Showing you it pre-marked as Defense 21. You know what that is, right?
Yes, I've seen it.
That's a photograph from...
Objection, hearsay.
I'll overrule the objection. Engage the question.
You know that that's a photograph from Katherine McVanwa's Facebook account, right?
That's correct.
Now you know that because you reviewed it and she's in the photo.
Correct.
And that fairly and accurately depicts what you saw on Facebook, right?
The historical Facebook, correct.
Moved in what's been pre-marked as Defense 21.
Objection.
Hearsay and lack of foundation.
I'll overrule the objection. Admit 21, defense, McBanaway, defense 21.
Agent, before I move on to this Facebook photo and publish it for the jury, part of the investigation you did as well is you pulled Katherine McBanaway's email accounts, right?
Yes. I did not personally pull her email accounts, no.
Were
TBD
you,
did, TBD did.
were you, and it may be a no here, were you advised of emails from a company called 2B, TU-BE Branding from 2012?
2012, no.
What about Dollhouse Marketing for 2013?
13, no.
This would be along the lines of, did you ever learn that she was helping do brand promotions for liquor companies in conjunction with working at nightclubs?
Oh, I think we had the indication of that early on in 12 and 13, well before everything.
And this is your indication, right?
Correct.
If you could tell the jury, when is this from?
Looks like May of 2013.
You've gone through all her financial records?
Correct.
No paychecks from these companies, right?
In 2013, no, there was not.
What about 2014?
No, there was not.
You would agree with me that a liquor company doing an event at what looks like a park may be paying their people in cash.
Sure, absolutely.
Now, at some point you learned of the nightclubs that she was working at in South Florida, right?
Correct.
And those nightclubs are, what are the names of them?
I don't recall off the top of my head.
You investigated them though, right?
Investigated.
Objection. Move to strike.
Overruled.
Investigated what?
You don't know the names of them,
I don't remember them today, no.
but you remember all the facts that help the theory, right?
Objection. Move to strike.
Just for the cost. That's not appropriate. Jury disregard counsel's comments.
Agent, you're brought onto this case to investigate things in South Florida, right?
Correct.
There's 2 nightclubs in South Florida that you learn that Katherine McBanaway was working at, right?
Correct.
One of them is Hollywood Live, right?
Correct.
The other, Club Faith.
Correct.
You made many trips to South Florida. Actually, all over the state of Florida, many trips. You never once went to one of those nightclubs, did you?
Because, no, I didn't.
Now, you learn that her employment with these nightclubs, with brand promotions, continues 2013, 2014, and 2015, right? I don't think that is mine, Judge. I think it's his other laptop.
It's like it's beeping for some reason.
I think that's good. Was it you?
Thank you.
Agent, through your investigation, you learned that employment continued, right?
Which employment?
Working at the nightclubs.
Till when? My investigation showed that probably stopped around mid-14.
Now, part of your investigation, my client, you looked at all her financial records too, right?
Including your income tax, yes.
What's the name of the nightclub that she's receiving a check from for tips?
Sins Club,
What's below that?
Fate,
That's a nightclub that we just brought up a minute ago, right?
right.
And what's the date of that check?
6 of 18. 6 of 15, I mean.
Now, this, have you ever seen this before?
Yes, I have seen that.
Now, it was an irregularity. She wasn't receiving. You knew she was working there in 2014 and 13, but there was never a point where she was receiving checks for tips, right?
Right.
So this seemed like a one-off thing.
It seemed like they were giving her a check, yes.
But you agree with me that she's working there in 2014, and in 2015 she still has an association with them.
In 2000, yes, in June of 2015, she received a check, yes.
That memo line doesn't say 2014, right?
Right.
And you have no evidence that there was a break in her employment there, right?
I have no evidence there was a break. I have no evidence that she was continuing work there between then and then.
Never,
Between then and way back then.
never spoke to a manager, right?
Nope.
Never spoke to an owner.
Nope.
Never spoke to any of their regular patrons on their VIP list
No, it did not.
to find out their net worth and the type tips one would give a VIP bottle girl in Miami.
Nope.
You would agree with me, Miami's a lively place.
Yes.
The nightlife is almost like Las Vegas of the East, right?
Sure.
There's a lot of high net worth people that live there and that travel there.
Okay.
That the tips, do you agree?
I don't know personally, no.
You would agree that the tips that one would give at a place like that may be different than other locations.
I have no idea.
Your neighborhood bartender may be making less than a VIP bottle girl at a massive nightclub.
Objection, this calls for speculation.
Sustained.
Without ever having gone to Club Fate, you can't even say the magnitude of the nightclub, can you?
No.
Now, in your review of my client's social media and Facebook, you came upon other pictures, right?
Yes.
I'm showing you what's been pre-marked as Defense 22. You know what that is, don't you?
Yes.
That's not a photograph from her Facebook, right?
Correct.
And you know that that's a photograph from her Facebook because she's in the photo, and you also reviewed her Facebook, right?
That's correct.
And that fairly and accurately depicts what she had on social media, right?
Correct.
Move in what's been pre-marked as Defense 22.
Objection.
Hearsay, relevance, and lack of foundation.
Sustained.
Your Honor, report sidebar.
Right. There was a request for a break. We'll take 15 minutes.